Give your YouTube videos or short films that extra punch with some high-quality stock footage from Action VFX. Affiliate link below. Welcome, listeners, to the second installment of Graboidtober, where we'll be reviewing all of the Tremors movies for the month of October. Today we're going to be talking about the sequel, Tremors 2 Aftershocks. Ian, what do you think of this movie?
It's a lot of fun.
I think Tremors 2 is actually one of the rare sequels that's actually good. One of the rare good sequels from the 90s. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's also not too silly. It has the same balance between horror and comedy that the first one had.
Oh yeah.
And this was actually the first Tremors movie I ever saw. This was the one that I saw late at night with my sister. And she's the one that introduced, and she's the one that told me about the first one, about the giant worms. And so I absolutely had no context when I saw this one. And I never saw the creature's previous form until seeing the first movie. So when I finally got to see the whole thing, after seeing the first movie, there was a lot of context now that I had. And honestly, yeah, even without Kevin Bacon in this movie, with just Fred Ward and Burt Gummer and a new guy, as well as another female character, this was actually a pretty solid entry in the franchise.
Yeah.
All right. The whole premise is that an abandoned oil refinery in Mexico is terrorized by more graboids, and so the Mexican government actually asks Earl from the first movie for help. Val, as is mentioned, that he declined because he got married. Probably to Rob.
Why would he want to die?
Yeah, why would he want to die? But the government is actually willing. At first, he's reluctant, but the government is actually willing to pay $50,000 for each graboid that's killed. And Earl, who's down on his luck because he invested all his money and into an ostrich ranch, which didn't pan out. And so this is kind of his way to make more money and then use it wisely. And at first it's going all right, and then when it turns out there's a lot more graboids, and they seem to have gotten wise to their tactics. They bring in Bert. Bert comes back, who's also in his depressive state to help. And things seem to work out, and then they turn worse, and that's all I'm gonna leave it at.
Yeah.
Well,
oh boy, this movie. Some parts of it's just a lot of dumb fun, and then fun gets shot down, and then we get furious.
I know, yeah, and just like the second movie. So, and it kind of helps that the director of the second movie is actually, one of the original writers.
Yeah.
So, and that's I guess that's what I like, because sometimes the original writers who then go on to be directors, they kind of have a more intimate connection with the characters that they wrote. So they now know how their creation should probably be, and in some ways also be bold enough to take risks in some cases. But with Tremors 2, like I said, it still has that perfect balance between horror and comedy, and it doesn't feel too serious, and it doesn't feel too silly. And
yeah, it balances well.
Yeah, and the pacing is actually very nice as well. The one thing that I tried to think of what to say for this podcast was most importantly is that when do these new creatures show up? So, yeah, that's the things that go worse. The worms actually change. They metamorphose. That's the word that Earl couldn't think of. That they couldn't think of when he finds the graboid just split open. And the creatures show up at about 58 minutes into the movie. And keep in mind that this movie is about an hour and 40 minutes long with credits included. And yet it doesn't feel like too long of a reveal. And the creatures the new form of the creatures they get enough screen time that it doesn't feel too short.
No.
And I think the reason why is that I think writing wise that if the creatures were actually revealed to change early on in the movie, it probably would feel like a repeat of the first movie.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. So in this case, the extra hour of them just killing all the graboids is kind of a nice way to lull us into a false sense of security. Like, oh, this is just your regular everyday sequel. Kill some graboids. It gets too much for the heroes. They got to get in extra help. Something's gonna go wrong, but they'll come out on top. And then only to give this hard left turn that graboids can actually change into these bipedal bird-like little, well, chicken-like chicken-like forms.
And these chicken-like things are not friendly.
Well, were the big ones friendly?
The big ones, I don't know. I mean, the big ones can hear you. These ones are just deaf.
Mm-hmm. They're deaf and blind. They only see heat, and that chicken thing is very appropriate because they have these organs in the top of their heads that you can see when flaps of skin just open up, and it kind of makes them look like a chicken.
Yeah.
And so there's this movie is actually full of a lot of good quotes, a lot of good quotable lines, especially more from Bert Gummer.
I love Bert.
I know. Let's see. You ask anyone if they've seen Tremors, and they'll probably quote one of his lines from this movie. They'll probably go with the iconic one. I feel I was denied. Critical. Need to know information.
Or they might also say, and I am completely out of ammo.
That's never happened to me before. Honestly, yeah, it is a pretty solid sequel. And even the new guy who actually does make a good replacement, he has some good chemistry with Earl.
Oh yeah.
And so the whole comedy, the whole bickering back and forth is still pretty there. So it doesn't feel like anything is missing. Just, well, not spiritually. Nothing spiritually is missing. I mean, yeah, there's something obvious. There is something physically missing, like no Kevin Bacon, but this guy actually does pretty good in picking up the slack.
Yeah, you did a good job.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Of course, now I posted last year on Facebook. I posted reviews for my 31 Days of Horror, and the Tremors series actually made it. Actually, I already did reviews of the Tremors movies, so this is actually a good way to now get all of my thoughts and all of your thoughts too, Ian, out into the open. But the one thing that I posted for Tremors 2 is that it came out in the post-Jurassic Park era, so CGI was the next big thing.
Yeah.
And so every studio was going to be using computer-generated imagery, but as the technology, as it got more polished, more refined, and even more top quality, movies from the late 90s and early 2000s kind of became a little more obvious.
Yeah, you can see it with these new forms.
Mm-hmm. But what sets Tremors 2 apart is that it was actually still low budget. It actually had a budget of $4 million, and so that so the computer effects were actually pretty minimal. So they still use the more practical effects.
Yeah.
So just like Jurassic Park, the computer dinosaur effects were very minimal. So were the shrieker effects in this one. All right. I think that's all I have. Ian, do you have anything before we move on?
Not really. That pretty much sums up the overall the overview of it. You want to go to characters?
Yeah, you can start off.
All right. So we have our main character played by Fred Ward, Earl Bassett.
Mm-hmm.
He squandered his fortune on a failing ostrich ranch.
Uh-huh. And it turns out they're two male ostriches.
Are you serious?
It's on IMDb.
Oh.
Yep, top line. Earl struggles with ostriches at the beginning of the movie while attempting to get them to mate. His difficulty may lie with the fact that both of them are male. Female ostriches are noticeably shorter and gray. So now
someone didn't do his research.
Yep.
Yeah, Fred Ward basically kept up the same role that he had in the original film, and he did it very well.
Mm-hmm. I actually kind of like the introduction, because you don't actually see that he's wrangling ostriches. You see him talk to something, and he ropes something, and then he gets dragged. You could think, oh, it must be horses, or maybe think, oh, maybe he actually trained graboids or something. But it's more than likely horses. My imagination just went to graboids. More than likely horses. And so then when it pans up to reveal ostriches, it's kind of hilarious. Again, keeping...
Yeah, you're basically like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. And... Oh yeah, and what about the fact that you heard the ostrich gulp? You actually hear it and see it go... Ooh.
I think I missed that.
Alright, but, Ian, continuing on, I don't mean to steal your thunder.
It's alright. Next character that is revealed is Carlos Ortega. He is the head of the oil field in Mexico, and as we said, he talked to Valentine McKee, and Val declined. He doesn't want to die.
Mm-hmm.
He married a good woman.
Yep.
So Carlos offers Earl $50,000 for each graboid, and if he manages to capture one alive,
woo!
that he would double that offer for that graboid. So, yeah, we don't really know too much about Carlos Ortega, but
yeah, he's kind of more of like the MacGuffin of the story. He's someone to propel the plot forward.
Yeah,
kind of almost like the same thing, kind of with Pedro, the Spanish-speaking worker, and Julio, who developed the seismographs.
Oh yeah. Next character is Grady Hoover.
The substitute for Valentine.
Yeah, he's basically the sidekick at this point.
Yeah, I heard you groan. I guess he annoyed you a bit.
He did annoy me, and Earl even said a perfect line that summed up my thoughts of him. Who are you, and why are you so dumb?
Yeah, that is a good line. Oh, also almost as good as the maybe you will come in handy. When they're eating you, it'll give me a chance to get away. I get it, but honestly, I think in this day and age, is that it's almost like a fanboy who's meeting his hero.
Yeah, pretty much.
It is like that. Even the way he acts and why he willingly participates in this is almost like saying like, are you kidding? I'm with basically Superman here. It's gonna be just smooth sailing. I guess that's another reason why this is so good, is because we've all been there. We've all seen or read something that is done, and we think this is easy. And then once we get to that, we realize, oh shit, I'm in way over my head.
Yeah.
It's just that usually our decisions are based on what jobs that we want to do or what careers we pick. His was just, I want to fight monsters.
Yeah. And then Grady Hoover manages to convince Earl to change his mind because Earl doesn't want to do this initially.
Because he kind of feels like his chance, his 15 minutes of fame is just gone. He's never gonna get it back.
Yeah. So they both go down to Mexico. And there they meet geologist Kate Riley and her assistant Julio. And they are scientifically investigating the graboids. And as the film progresses, we see a definite spark between Earl and Kate.
Mostly they're checking out each other's butts.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it is kind of fun that they each look at they each check each other out when they're not looking.
Yeah, it's funny.
So,
if it was Hiccup and Astrid, though, I don't think we'd have any qualms.
I'm not having any qualm. In fact, it's after that scene the next morning with Grady and Earl. Their bickering back and forth is kind of almost like that of the beginning of the first movie. With Earl and with Val and Earl. You know, Grady points out that Earl is shaved, and Earl doesn't like the implication, and so Grady drops it. But before delivering the last line, she's a babe. So it's a lot tamer than the whole "I thought you called it your pecker" line from the first movie, but it's still in the same vein.
Yeah. Anyway, they go around blowing up graboids with remote-controlled cars.
Mm-hmm. Where did they get Did the Mexican government give them just like a large stockpile of remote-controlled cars? Did they?
I guess.
Did they buy out one of the Toys R Us?
Well, seeing as how the government apparently paid for all their expenses, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
And eventually when they find out that there's way too many graboids for them to handle on their own, they call in the big guns.
Literally.
Oh, yeah. They call down Burt Gummer, who is once again a joy to see.
Mm-hmm.
And he has commissioned from the Mexican government a truck loaded with firearms and explosives.
Oh, yeah. We're talking like explosives and firearms used by the military.
Yeah. And then once again, Bert gets a little more characterized in this. He documents everything on a video camera.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, that is a little bit. We get more depth into his character. Yeah, him documenting his experiences. I actually thought that was kind of cool. I wanted to give that a try, but then because of my ADD, I just dropped that immediately. And we know about his lifestyle from the first movie. In this one, it's kind of cranked up. I mean, yeah, he has hunting rifles, and all that kind of stuff. Knows how to make bombs. This one, we now see more of his firearm knowledge. And his remote control car of choice is a tank.
I love that.
He even puts on a soldier's helmet before blowing up one graboid.
He's so funny.
And honestly, that actually reminded me of something. The graboid's life cycle is still actually pretty ambiguous. That when you this is what was going through my mind when I was very young. I was still in middle school. I was in middle school when I became obsessed with the Tremors series. So I honestly thought that the graboids changed into these streakers because of a mutation, and I thought it was because of the C4 that Bert used. And the reason why is because when we first see Bert use the C4 charged tank, and when the graboid swallows it, there's a puff of yellow smoke. And when Grady and Earl they kill the first streaker, there's also another puff of yellow smoke, and I thought that was the same thing. I'm like, oh, that must be why. It wasn't until that must be why they look like that. Maybe the C4 just kind of mutated them. It wasn't until I got a lot older that I realized that yellow smoke, it was just coming from the amber light that's behind them. And also, it kind of doesn't explain why are all the other graboids changing if Bert hasn't blown them up. So yeah, like I said, I was in middle school, so logic was still I was still halfway between actually thinking logically and thinking more like how can I explain this?
Yeah. Anyway, continuing with characters. I think that's it. Oh no, Pedro.
Pedro, otherwise known as Worm Chow. Yeah,
Yeah.
We don't know much about him other than that he speaks Spanish and he has a big truck.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I think that's all the characters. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that is. It is actually very minimal compared to the very first movie, and honestly, that's kind of what it actually does make them easy to. It makes them easy to remember.
Yeah, because I remember last time we did this, we left out several characters because we didn't really know much about them.
We didn't know much about them, and they honestly weren't all that too important.
Yeah.
Sad but true. It's alright. So let's see. We talked about the effects. We talked about the characters. I guess a little bit of the plot. How about we focus more on Bert Gummer's characterization? In the first movie, he was married.
Yep.
And in the second one, it's revealed that he and Heather split. Probably because Heather got a decent career in acting.
Oh yeah, maybe.
No, but apparently through the dialogue, Heather just had enough of Bert's paranoia, because apparently he took the collapse of the Soviet Union very hard, and that and she says to him that he can't handle life without the threat of global war. And apparently that it was that kind of argument that caused Heather to live with her sister for a time and ultimately split. She and Bert split, and it's further cemented by her asking for the HK-91.
Oh no.
Apparently that was her favorite weapon.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of nice to. I mean, what's funny about it is Earl's reaction is that he winces and goes, "Ouch!" It's like, oh, he knows what that means, whereas us, we don't get that. And it kind of shows, the amount of the respect that has actually been earned between Earl and Bert, because you remember in the first movie, he and Val.
I'm so sorry. I have no idea why I keep doing that.
I don't know why either. But he and Val were kind of like mocking Bert for his lifestyle, his paranoia. it was only until after he killed the graboid in the first movie, which he now mounts on his wall in the very same spot.
Oh yeah,
that he
tentacles and everything.
They remarked that I guess we can't make fun of Bert's lifestyle anymore. And so yeah, and so we kind of see Bert in a very vulnerable state. He actually outright lies to Earl that he's busy doing projects, and that lucky that you caught him while I was at home. When really what his project just consisted of watching war documentaries and eating chips in a recliner.
Yeah.
So, and I guess that's kind of the other reason why Bert has such the following that he has, is because we not only saw him at his most powerful moment, we saw him at his most vulnerable.
Yeah. And he's a joy to see. He's been in every movie.
Yes, he has. Although I still wish we could see some of the old castmates. I'd like to see Fred Ward and Kevin Bacon again.
Oh yeah, bring them back for the last movie.
Yes, Tremors 20.
Oh,
bring them for Tremors 20.
On Europa.
Oh god. Yep. All right. Anyway, let's see. What was the geologist? What was her name again?
Her name was Kate Riley.
Kate. Yes, Kate. Kate is not only the love interest, is it the love interest of Earl? No, actually, yeah, she is only the love interest of Earl, but what's funny, and also I guess kind of a brilliant piece of writing is that she was a Playmate centerfold one time. And this is mentioned briefly in the very beginning. Earl has a Playmate centerfold, Miss October 1974, and that's supposed to be a reminder to him that to stop chasing after things that he's never gonna get. Well, and it turns out that in this movie, his love interest actually was the Playmate. So he actually gets the girl that he chased after, and while in a situation that made him famous in the first place. So
yeah.
So this is so now I don't. Now it's not the fact that she was in a Playmate. It's just kind of like the symbolism. It's the symbolism of it that I think is actually brilliant.
I'm here. I'm just dying.
Of laughter?
No. Allergies.
Oh boy, yeah, it's allergy season. All right.
Anyway.
All right. How about now? Sometimes with sequels, we can now move on to other parts of the movie. Sometimes with sequels, mostly bad sequels. So this doesn't apply to Tremors 2, is that the story will be how the events of the first movie are just kind of ignored. And so that kind of gives an excuse for characters to be absolutely dumb. In this move, now what I'm going with this is that because of the events of the first movie, Earl has experience, and also the ragtag team of Graboid hunters have developed technology and techniques in trying to capture and kill them, which is actually pretty awesome. They use seismographs and the use of dynamite and remote controlled cars. Kind of shows that they have learned from their experience.
Yeah. I mean,
still dying over there, Ian?
A little bit. Please excuse my frequent gasps for air.
Okay.
But yeah, I enjoyed seeing like how they learned from what they went through. I mean, yes, I've seen some movies and sequels where it's just like, hey, let's do this, even though we learned from this in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Proceeds to die.
Yes. It's also kind of what makes the humor in this between Earl and Grady very funny, because he's the voice of experience, and so when when Grady has these lapses in judgment, such as not opening his umbrella after the Graboid explodes, leaving the radio on the ground. Honestly, I almost feel like his catchphrase should be, "Sorry, I forgot."
I think it is his catchphrase.
It was funny. I mean, it was funny. And it was the moment when we have this, I guess you could say, beached Graboid, because I don't know what other word I could call it. You know, the Graboid that's sick.
Grounded?
Isn't it already grounded?
Yeah, I don't know what we would call it.
Beached is like the
equivalent of beached.
Yeah, beach is like the best term I can think of. Is again that comedic chemistry. You know, Grady's just all super excited that they captured a live Graboid, but Earl is thinking like there are more important things to think about. I got a radio Kate to get a truck over here. And Grady's going like, tell him that we're gonna need that to ship that buddy's butt off to Monster World. And Earl just goes, "Will you shut up and get off the damn ground?" I'm off. I love that scene. I love that so much.
Yeah, and then when they taunt Bert with their success.
Let's see, I think there was something else that I wanted to... Oh, dang, more characterization of Bert is that we know what his health style is. I mean, this was the movie that introduced me to MREs, and I wanted to try them.
I have tried them. They're not too bad.
Really? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I've had them years ago, like in 3rd grade. But they're not terrible. You can get them online.
Oh. How expensive are they?
Depends where you get them. It's basically like long-lasting camping food.
Okay.
But yeah, there's several websites you can get them from, and they're not overly expensive.
That's nice. All right.
But yeah, the MRE.
Mm-hmm.
Look, this food tastes like toilet paper. That is the toilet paper.
Oh boy. Alright, I just can't think of anything else, at least to talk about this topic.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess alright, now, the other thing, I guess, the one thing I can move on to is, again, creature designs.
Oh, yeah.
Ian, I'll let you have the floor on this one.
Alright. The graboids have... Well, the standard graboids have basically stayed the same. Big, like, chubby worms with a multi-pronged jaw. And the standard 3 tentacles. Not bad.
Yeah.
We've seen it before, and this time we actually see them right at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Eating the poor guy on the barrel.
Oh, yes. And he had to jump across a bunch of hollow barrels.
Gee, that's not quiet.
Why don't you just paint a target on my back?
Like mulching bucket and what flies beneath. But yeah, as for these new creatures, should I spoil what they are?
Well, I think if most people have already seen the Tremors series, they probably already know what they're called, and I think I've already mentioned that. I think I've already named them.
Alright, so the Shriekers, they are little things.
Yeah.
They're small, roughly about hip height, I think.
Yeah.
Roughly. Bipedal, three-toed feet and no arms. Blind, deaf, and they primarily see by using thermal sensors. And this makes them a little more dangerous than the graboid.
Yeah. It is a lot. Because even though they have no eyes, they still can technically see.
Yeah. And at first it feels like they're attacking everything to, isolate the humans, cutting them off. And it turns out, no, they're actually really stupid.
I know. Yeah, they kill Pedro and his truck. They knock out the radio towers, mostly because of the heat, and it does come across as like they planned this. But when we find out, Grady just gives the best line that summarizes everything. You mean the reason why they're so smart is because they're so stupid?
Yeah. And he's not wrong.
Yeah. I mean, but the way it's kind of set up, it does come across as they've gotten smarter, and we know from the first movie is that they do learn.
Oh yeah.
And I actually kind of liked the build-up for how dangerous these creatures are. I liked Pedro's decapitated arms, and the hollow graboid moment, because especially Earl's reaction to it. Because now when you think about it, his reaction to seeing Pedro's dangling arms is like, and his remark of how it's a whole new goddamn ball game is just like, that's just like one shock right after another, and he's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit.
Yeah. And it's a perfectly natural reaction.
Yes.
I mean, just think about how Grady would be feeling. His hero is now a muttering mess of tears.
I know.
Like, oh shit, what did I get myself into?
And he even has that moment near the end. Like, he apologizes that he got them all sucked into this. But so yeah, the creatures, they still have the same jaws as the Graboid. They still have the same serrated jaws. And apparently they have a new feature. They are hermaphroditic. So they have both sex organs. And when they get enough food, they can actually regurgitate another one of them.
And depending on how much food there is, it can be exponential.
Mm-hmm. Which the climax, it doesn't take place on a cliff. It doesn't take place on a cliff, which Ian, remind me that to do favorite scenes or favorite moments.
All right, will do.
Okay. It doesn't take place on a cliff. It doesn't take place on rocks. It takes place at the refinery, and the whole final moment is in a garage, but in the garage of the refinery. But how it ends is pretty much Michael Bay worthy. There's no other way.
Pretty much.
There's no other way to describe that. When three of our heroes, Kate, Earl, and Grady, are on the oil drums. I have no idea what those things are. Oil silos. I have no idea what they are, but the Shriekers end up, piling up on top of each other, forming a pyramid to try to get to them. Bert, who hid in a bulldozer bulldozer claw,
a bulldozer bucket.
The bulldozer. Oh, it is called a bucket.
It's called a bucket.
Okay, hides in the bucket. Turns in, just kind of distracts them. Goes to the garage and traps them in there, only they find out that there's still food, that there is still food in the garage. So Earl comes up with a plan to try to grab some bombs and sneak in there by spraying himself with a fire extinguisher. But it doesn't last very long. He starts to melt, and so he decides to blow everything. He decides to just blow everything up. Which leads us to, honestly, the best moment in Tremors history. And how there's this wide shot of the refinery, just it's very still, and you just hear the shriek of these creatures, and then all of a sudden, boom! Just explodes. Oh my god.
Yeah, and it's preceded directly by a bit of comedy. Everyone's running away from the building.
Yes.
The three hide behind another smaller shack, and Bert just keeps running, and he's like, "What are you doing? Keep going!
It's gonna be big."
Yeah. So they're like, "Okay, keep going." That's great. It's wonderful.
Yes, it is. Oh yeah, that is honestly I stand by what I said. That is one of the best moments in Tremors history.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yes, the ending to the first movie, where Val tricks the Graboid into careening off the cliff, and is awesome. But blowing up a garage full of creatures with 2.5 tons of high explosives is just epic.
Yeah,
And like,
and I think a little bit overkill.
well, well, you know what Bert says: when you need it and don't have it, you sing a different tune.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I think I had a thought, but now I can't remember what. I lost my train. I lost the train of where it was going.
Favorite moments.
Okay. Okay, yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Ian, what was your favorite moment of Tremors 2?
Aside from the massive explosions at the end, I enjoyed the sequence of the original Graboid hunting towards the beginning, where it's just a montage of explosions.
Oh yeah, set to I think it's Toby Keith's song, Trouble.
Yeah, I think something like that.
Yeah. My favorite moment is the sequence when the Graboid is dragging them by the chain.
Oh man. Awesome.
It's funny, and also it's funny with the with the music that's playing in the background. Grady actually trying to shoot at the Graboid with the gun, and
through the dirt,
yeah. But then you see a cliff coming up, and it was like, oh my god, this is a suicidal Graboid. It's gonna but then it stops, and then it drags and turns them the other way. And Grady is just, even Grady after the whole experience is just trying to look on the positive side.
That's the first ride at Monster World.
Yes.
And all while that's playing, we hear the radio playing underground.
Yeah. That's kind of what makes it. That's what makes it funny. And my favorite sequence.
Yeah. We know that the radio did get eaten, but apparently it didn't get barfed up.
Those are some pretty good batteries.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Mm-hmm. And also good reception. I mean, it's in the belly of a Graboid underground, and it's still getting reception.
Yeah.
Decent high quality reception.
Oh, yeah, and apparently they had the volume turned up a bit.
Mm-hmm. All right. I can't think of anything else.
How about the fossil?
Oh, the fossil, right. Oh yeah, we did mention that in the last review. Card up top.
Yeah.
Alright.
But yes, we learn a little bit more about where these things come from.
Ian, this is your area. Balls in your court.
Well, towards the beginning, before the big explosions and things happening, I believe I'm correct. I was half asleep watching this.
Oh.
Yeah, it was late.
Okay.
But it turns out Kate did had on hand the fossil of one of the spines of a Graboid.
Mm-hmm.
And she said it was Precambrian rock, which indicates that these Graboids are the oldest forms of life on the planet.
But wasn't Cambrian life like unicellular organisms?
No, Cambrian life during the Cambrian explosion. That was when we had a whole bunch of new animals and plants come out, like trilobites and shells and such.
So, all right.
we did have quite a few soft-bodied organisms during the Cambrian and the Precambrian. However, no worms that we have found. So, and with them being seemingly terrestrial animals, that means that throws into a bit of an oops, I would say, because during the Precambrian, there was nothing on land. It was rock.
Yeah. I think I read on one of the IMDb pages, or maybe even on the Wikipedia, on any of the wiki pages, not Wikipedia, like Tremors wiki, the fan, I guess not fan funded, just
the fan
run. Yes, fan run pages that I think in the Tremors series, it was at the TV series that they kind of retconned that and saying that no, it was actually in a more older, more earlier age. So it wasn't.
You mean later?
Well, yeah,
A later age?
Yeah, later age. Thank you. And like maybe something like the Devonian era or something.
Yeah, I did read something about that, and that would work because there were land animals during the Devonian.
Okay. So it does give us some answers to the graboids, and I think some of us might have mirrored Earl's reaction to finding out they're from Earth, because he's mad that they're not from space.
Yeah.
And I think
and that was his guess in the first movie.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure a lot of us thought that they were from space. But I guess given, with fossil records, I mean, it's okay I guess it's also okay that they are terrestrial. I mean, it kind of adds a little bit more mystery, not to the creatures, but to Earth itself.
Yeah, because we don't really know that much. I mean, we know a good bit, but we don't know everything.
But I kind of still like that there would be more mystery to the graboids, and I guess with the introduction of the Shriekers, we kind of got a little bit more mystery.
Yeah, like why do they change?
Well, I guess that's kind of answered, albeit a little bit confusingly, in the third movie, which we will get to another time.
Yeah.
So let's see. Do you have anything else to add to?
No, I think we just have ranking. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. I guess Tremors 2 Aftershocks is a solid sequel to the cult favorite first movie. Honestly, it does keep it does keep the horror and the comedy that was the charm of the first movie. Is decently acted, and also good animatronics and special effects. I would actually give it a 9 out of 10.
I have to say it's an 8 out of 10.
Ah.
I just think it's not as good as the original, but it's still fun.
Yes, and I would have to agree with you on that. But the reason why I give it a 9 is that it doesn't feel like a severe drop in quality. I mean,
no, I agree. Yeah.
And for me, the first movie is still superior. Second one is decent. It's pretty close.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for this installment of Graboid-tober. Join us next time when we review Tremors 3: Back to Perfection.